Dean, my friend, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's an absolute honor. I'm glad we made this happen. I want to start off with, what are the hardest parts of the job?
You live up to your reputation. Straight shooter. The hardest job the hardest part of our job, probably making decision in real time when you don't have the full map of data. You always have the unknown factors that you need to take into consideration. That's obviously part of the risk, and that's the job. But I think that's also the hard part, because in hindsight, everything looks easy. Everything seems like, yeah, it was obvious. But in real time, it's anything but that.
Interesting. So walk me through a real life example. You don't have to mention names, of making that decision in real time. And then also tell me about the things, the information that you don't have, that you are considering, but you don't have that information, but it's in your mind. You're thinking about it.
I think that many times we see, and I invest in enterprise software startups that go after large enterprises usually, but most companies don't start serving, the largest organization in the world from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Usually you start with smaller companies or mid-market, or even in Israel we see a lot of companies serving Israeli companies. So there is this specific stage in many times and many companies that you start to close your first, let's say, 2 or 3 large customers or real enterprises or some kind of SMEs. And this is kind of the inflection point when you want to take the real bets, because this is the part when you still get to enjoy and benefit most of the reward, but you have a lot of the risk. The fact that you were able to go into a POC or even sign your first 2 enterprises doesn't necessarily mean that you will continue to do so. So I think that there was one company that I invested in that I only had 2 cases of real large enterprises, and the rest of the customer base was completely, much smaller companies. And the great thing about it is to see that when your plan actually materializes, and then 1 quarter later and the quarter after that and the next year that follows, you suddenly have so many enterprises and you feel that, okay, I made the right shot. But at the time of the decision, it was not that easy to see this. You need to take a leap of faith on the company, on the situation, on the market.
How much in that process are you trusting your gut versus data that you have? I
think that in our job, you always have to do the work. You need to make all the research. You need to do all the references. You develop the thesis. But eventually, at least for me, it's not about looking at the shiny slides and presentation or the very nice table that takes the pros and cons. It's actually to listen to your gut feeling. And I know that gut feeling sounds very, let's say, non-concrete way to decide. But if you actually think about it, it's all of the receptors in your body telling you and leading into one specific decision. So it's actually, I think that it's more science that people actually credit it.
Have you ever been in a case that you did not listen to your gut?
No. I always go after my gut feeling. If I am the decision maker and I have the ability to influence and make the decision, I never go against my gut.
So then tell me how it works. So you have all the data, and then you're going to reflect, and then what are you going to do? Like, how are you tapping into your gut feeling?
I think it's something that builds up over time. And I'm not saying that there is some point that you cannot go back, but there is a point in the process that you already know that you want to invest in that company. You still need to make a process, to make sure that everything is being done properly. But there is the, let's call it confirmatory stage of the due diligence, which is the last one. And in that case, you just need to validate and verify that everything that you already knew and were told to you by the founder and the company or the CFO is actually true. But the phase before that, okay, you see how this customer develop over time and expand that, and you see a reference, but you want to hear it, in first hand, and to speak with the customer and actually ask the question that you care about. Because many times you have people saying great things about companies, but it only means that they really like the product so far, or it really benefited a specific use case. But if you have a specific thesis of how the market will develop and how the product should shape in the next 2 to 3 years, there are hardest questions that you can ask. And I think that this is the part when you start to collect the data points and you find some credible data in things that you believed in, and B, you also understand that there is so many things that you don't know, and your thesis changes over time. It doesn't change just materially, right? It doesn't say that, things will go from right to left, but it kind of fine-tune your understanding and I wouldn't call it expertise, but the specific thesis that you have on how things will look like,
right?
Or potentially look like.
Interesting. So what I really want to understand is currently right now you're working at DTCP. It's a $5 billion fund. You're managing the Israel side, which is incredible. Before that, you were in banking. I think before that, you were first at another venture fund in banking. But originally, you're a boy from Haifa. So I want to understand, who is Dean?
Going a lot to the beach, growing up in Haifa. Who is Dean? I want to believe that the answer today is the same answer that I was to give 20 years ago, and it would be a trusted friend.
Say more.
Look, in general, I think that in life, and it's not only in VC, you have what we call in Hebrew the chevra, and you have chaverim. So we have, I think the equivalent in VC is you have the network, or the people that you know and you work with, and you have your own reputation. But usually you don't have 100 people that you are extremely close with. Usually it's, a lower number of people that you really, really trust, and you usually have some kind of a co-investment or experience together that you've been through thick and thin, and you still were able to keep your relationship close, because in VC it's not always that easy. You have a lot of incentives. You don't always have alignment of interest between the different stakeholders, and if you are lucky enough to work with people and to partner with people that will always find a way to navigate through a full alignment of interests, even though VC is structured in a way to not always have this way, I think that's probably the best thing that you can do for your VC journey, investment journey, startup journeys, because then it can be really, really fun, but also very lucrative in the way that things will shape in for your favor in the future.
Did you have a lot of close friends, the chevra?
I want to believe so. Yeah, I have enough. I feel very fortunate about the people that I know and care about, and I have some good relationships with people that for many years that I plan to continue for many years to come.
Nice. What type of kid were you? What type of kid were you?
Type of kid? A kid that doesn't stay at home a lot. I was outside, the classic 90s kids, building fortresses in the woods and playing soccer and being outside. So I think that today kids unfortunately have a lot of screen time that I'm happy that I didn't have. But I think that as a 90s kid, it really shaped you, because it's all about you, your chevra, being outside, doing a lot of sports and activities, and explore things that you like, rather than just being on your mobile device. So I think it's a very great time to be a kid. We had enough technology to benefit and have a really high quality of life, but at the same time, we have this innocent childhood in a way.
So then, you as a father now, how do you plan on raising your kids, because they're growing up in a very, very different time?
Yes. So my oldest son is 6.5 years old. So I'm still, let's say, 2 to 4 years away, I want to believe, before this hardest question will actually materialize. But I'm trying to give them the best of all worlds. So obviously they have to be relevant. So It's not like I'm going to keep iPhones and things away from them, but it's all about how you use things, how you consume them, and yeah. So I will need to figure it out. But in general, I want them to have the same values that I had as a kid.
Right.
They should enjoy being out with friends. They should enjoy pursuing things that they are passionate about, and they will need to figure out what these things are, whether it's basketball, playing, or any other thing that they will find their passion in.
Nice. The values that you just mentioned, playing outside, friends, pursuing your passion, were these values that were given to you by your parents?
Now that I'm a father, it's the easiest thing to assume is that I give the values to my kids, and I'm trying to. But I think it's more of the not the ecosystem, but the house that you let them and the boundaries that you give them to explore their own passion, their own things that we look for. So I don't think that I was given things the same way that I don't believe that I will give my kids the value. You can show them the way, and if you do things and you're kind to people, and if I want my kids to do a lot of sports, then I will do it with them. It's not I cannot scream at my kid, hey, go have fun and make sports. Like you have to lead by example. So for me, every weekend I ride the bikes with my kids. I try to be very active with them. And I hope that they will follow and do the same thing as grown up, because I think it's a very important tool to have, to just make sure that you can enjoy being outside with other people, cultivate relationships, and enjoy different kind of sports games.
Right. So I know I personally struggle with, let's say, work-life balance, which I don't think it exists work-life balance, but I think the concept of, it's more work-life harmony. Sometimes you require more here and sometimes you require more there. But in your position as your job, it's a 24-hour job sometimes. Like you're dealing with board issues, you're dealing with new investments, you're dealing with so many different things. It could be LPs, it could be the founder's calling you, 2:00 in the morning. He's going through his own personal, struggle that he needs help with. How do you balance that, or what's your process for being constantly on in the job to make sure that, say, you're always getting into the next deal, you're not losing anything, or you're providing portfolio support, with together being a present dad and a good husband?
Still trying to figure this out, to be honest. I think that's really hard. That's $1 million question, and no one really knows where this delicate balance is. But you have to proactively think about it. You can't just be pulled away by things. So, we record it right now in New York. I live in Israel. I was in Europe 2 weeks ago for a business trip. I will be in Europe next week for a business trip. I will be in San Francisco in 3 weeks from now. So I have a hard time balancing, but you have to find a way. So I think there is no a specific rule that you can follow, but it's like making, Turkish coffee. You have this, you boil the water and the coffee, and every time you feel that you're exaggerating, you need to give your family some time, and you have to proactively make sure that you have the time. So for me, if I don't get to be enough with my family, and if my family is not well, then I'm not well and I cannot perform. So for me, I really think that these two things are interconnected, and you have to take care of your family, you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to actually perform at your job, because otherwise it is not sustainable. You can do 1, 2, 3, or maybe 5 years of, exhausting yourself in the job. Even if you really, really like it and you enjoy it, you have to have your personal life and your business life, and to make sure that these two courts coordinate very well together and each of them perform at its best.
Do you have certain practices that you do to make sure that it's constantly you're on top of it?
I think the weekends. The weekends are the best time, because in the weekends you can always find time to do other things, but focusing on my family and make sure that I have my time with the boys and my wife, that is extremely important to me. And also find the time during the weekdays that you have specific time or specific day that everyone knows that you do something. It can be bathing things like, I don't know, ordering pizza on Saturday or whatever, but just have these small little moments that you sit together as a family. And I think it makes you a better person, and as a result of that, a better professional as well.
Right. How has fatherhood changed you?
I think that it gives you another perspective, that you can see the other side better. Okay. Because, when you have someone that it's your blood, your flesh, so you tend to believe that they will be, they will be a mini you or something like that, and that couldn't be more inaccurate. Every person, every kid is different. I have 2 kids, 2 boys. They are so different. So I think that all you really want to have is their best interest in mind. And there is no one formula of getting the best for them. So you need to figure out how to handle each situation, each path of each of them in order to optimize their own journey, happiness, health, or whatever. So I think that experience also opened your mind to other people's way of thinking, needs in general.
Right. Your wife's seen you grow professionally too.
Yes.
How important do you place on the aspect if a founder is in a relationship or partnership or not?
How coming in?
How much data do you place on the fact if a founder is in a relationship or not? Because I know for myself, I think it makes such a difference. Like I can see in the data, I think this is studied there somewhere, that a founder that's in a relationship outperforms a founder that's not in a relationship because because the founder journey is so lonely. They have the emotional support when they come home in the evening or when they're on a trip for someone to be there for them on the emotional side, not necessarily the business side. And I know myself, I put quite some emphasis on that data point because I know I've seen the founders outperform in that way. And I'm sure you also have the outliers. But from your own experience, how much weight do you put on that?
I must admit that I haven't really thought about it. I mean, I agree with your argument, and I think it's true, but maybe because I invest in, let's call it growth or early growth, I see it less than like you and other investors in the early stage see. So if you find, I don't know, young 24-year-old founders, then that's obviously one thing to consider, but you know, it's every person have its own journey and personal life. Some people want to get married, some are not. Some wants to become parents and some do not. And even if you want to have a family, sometimes you meet them when you're 20 and sometimes you meet them when you're 40. So I wouldn't judge based on that. But I think that in general, as a rule of thumb, it's good to have balance between your work and your life. Right. So I think that, let's say, after I invest, I want to make sure that people are happy in general and that they have all the time, resources, and focus to also take a good care of their own family.
Right. So walk me through your career journey so far. To start from the beginning, you're 18 years old, you went to serve.
Yes, very regular. Okay. So army, nothing technical. Went in several combat units. Then I went straight to college, studied accounting and law. And I think this was the first time I made a decision that was, in hindsight, very, very wise. But at the moment of making the decision, it looked very, let's say, to my face, people told me that I was crazy, and probably not to my face, people said that I was stupid. So I decided I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm not going to be an accountant. I took off some of the courses that you have to take in order to become an accountant, for example. And I decided that I'm going to go to finance, to investment banking. So I had my first position in investment banking when I was on my third year of college out of 4 years.
Why did you decide to go to finance? Was it like a dream you always had as a kid to make a lot of money, to be rich?
I wanted to be in the business world, and I think that growing up in the years that we grew up, the way of making the best, career outcomes and do great things and work on the largest deals was investment banking. Right. Tech was developed, but not as it is developed today. Right. So I think that for me, I knew that I want to be involved in business. I didn't know where exactly. So investment banking looked like the perfect place for me, advise companies and be part of the largest transaction that's coming out of Israel. Mm-hmm. So I worked in several banks. I worked in Oppenheimer, in Morgan Stanley, and in Polim Equity, which is basically, at least back then, was like the extension of William Blair, another US bank. So it was a really nice experience. And then I would say almost by a planned accident, I became an investor after several years.
What was the accident?
So I wanted to move to the buy side. So I started to develop my own network and get to know the people in the ecosystem. And then while I was at Polim at the sell side advisory role, I was offered to start deploying capital on behalf of Polim. So I jumped on the opportunity. I did it for a couple of years. I had a very first lucky strike with a company called Zirto when we made the investment, and I think it was like 10 months later, we had a very nice return. So it was a good kickoff for the career. And then after 3 years at Polyim, I got a call from a mutual friend, which is a partner in another growth fund. He introduced me to IRIT, which was back then with leading the Israeli office of DTCP, and the rest is history. So I joined in 2021, and I've been with DTCP since then.
Wow. What was your first job at DTCP?
I was a senior associate, so it was about execution of deals, and the general associate role, sourcing deals, a lot of research, deep dives into different type of categories, and it was an interesting time to do that in 2021 because, now it feels like things changes in months. Back then it was about weeks. Right. So everything moved so fast. You opened the newspaper every day and you had another article of another unicorn, another 5 or 6 companies that fundraised the same day. So it was interesting times.
Interesting. And what's your current role? What is your current role?
I'm a managing director and head of Israel at DTCP.
So then what are the things that you think you've done right in order to get those promotions and to become the managing director and head of Israel?
Making bold moves,
okay.
I think, and trust your gut feeling. If I go back to the beginning of the conversation, so making bold moves. So in 2023, so let's say 3 years ago, Irit had recruited me. She left, and I could have waited and see what happens, but instead of that, I decided to pick up the phone and call the 2 most senior guys at DTCP and the 2 managing partners, and tell them, guys, give it to me. I can do it. Okay. So luckily enough, they told me, okay, take a flight, come to Germany and let's discuss. So I came to Germany. We sat there. I was there for a couple of days, and eventually they gave me the blessing, asked me what I need. And since then, I'm leading the Israeli office, and it has been a really, really nice ride so far.
Wow. Did you have to convince them to give you the position?
It wasn't about convincing them. It wasn't like a pitch. It was a strategic discussion. Hey, this is what I want to do. These are my observations. This is my thesis on how things will look like in the market in the next 2 to 3 years. These are the areas that I want to deploy. These are the verticals. These are the stages. And they thought that it was a good idea. And if I judge now, we are in 2026. We had several very good investment that we are very happy about in Israel. And yeah.
Wow. What gave you the conviction to make that call? Like, what made you think that, like, hey, I could do this? This is my position. I was created for this. What gave you all that conviction?
I think it's instincts in general. Okay. When you have an opportunity, you can observe and start analyzing, or you can be proactive. So for me, it was in a matter of, hours or a day. It's not like I was waiting for 6 months to see what's going to happen. The moment I found out what happened, I made a move and try to be pragmatic about what are the next steps, what do I need to do, what others expect to see from me, and just executed on the plan.
Oh, I love that. Like, most people are not as proactive as you are in that sense, but I think that's incredible. Like, you took the opportunity, you just jumped at it, and you went through with it to the end, where the proof is in the pudding. You're able to see.
Yes, but that's also the job in VC. Right. So the best outcomes will not come from waiting, from founders calling you, telling you that they are fundraising. Here are the materials. Everyone can look, and you just give an offer. You have to be very proactive. You have to invest and make decision before the market or other people get to, let's say, a consensus around the fact that this is a great company or this is a great investment. Because if you wait for that, usually it takes off a lot of the upside that you have, because either it will be harder to win the deal or the price will be way higher because everyone already knows it. So you have to move fast, make bold moves, and have a strong belief in your gut feeling.
Interesting. So what's your current thesis? You had a thesis that you mentioned when you got the job for the next 3 years, which was in, I think, 2023, you said. But what's your current thesis right now?
It hasn't really changed.
Okay.
The thesis is about investing in companies before you have full consensus in the market. So we are not investing 20 years ahead. I'm an early growth investor. I'm investing for the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years. So I'm looking for companies that you can see the first fingerprints of the motion that we usually call it the globe of motion, that we can really support with. We have offices in the US and all over Europe. We have a very robust enterprise network, especially around Europe. And there is a moment that I usually see where I think, okay, now is the time that it can potentially be beneficial for the founder to start meeting companies, because at the beginning, it's too early. Europe is not known for being the earliest adopter. Right. I think it has changed. Europe started to adopt technologies very early, and there's a lot of geopolitical movement and tension that you can see in the world. So everyone is very opportunistic, but you still need to wait for that level of maturity to see the first enterprises and the first early adopters that many times come actually from Israel, but we're not usually from the US.
Right. What makes a growth company? Because these days, people are raising monster rounds at seed round and seed plus, if you want to call it, or even the A round. But not necessarily do they have all the characteristics that make it a growth company. The revenue is not there, but their round, what they're raising, is almost like a B round almost sometimes. What makes an actual growth company?
What makes a company a growth company?
Yeah.
I think that when most people say growth company, they mean in terms of revenue. Okay. And that's a tricky question, because a company that is growing from, 2 million to 10 million, that's a very fast growth. And many times people can call it growth, but a company that is going from, 6 to 10, it's still early growth in my view, because it will take time. So let's say $10 to $20 million of annual recurring revenue is probably where early growth start to become growth. In terms of stages.
What does success look like to an 18-year-old Dean?
To an 18-year-old, I didn't have anything of, let's say, business-related thoughts back then. Really? It was just about enjoying life, being outside, making a lot of good times with my friends. And back then also, working hard of getting to where I wanted to go in my military service, where I started in the Israeli Navy SEALs. So I spent a lot of my time back then training and having all the processes that you need to do together.
So none of this was in the plan? Not business, not VC, not investment banking?
No, absolutely no. Yeah. Told you, complete accident.
Wow. Right place, right time, like in everything else. Mazal, luck. Wow. What have been some of the hardest challenges you've been through in your professional career?
I think that in general, this is also true for VC, but even before I joined my VC career, making decisions that at the time of the decision, you don't get, let's say, a lot of support from other people. To the contrary, people try to tell you that you are wrong, that you're making the wrong decision. But if you think about it in a very, try to zoom out for a second, if you want to do exceptional thing, you have to make exceptional moves. Right. And if you do the same thing that everybody else are making, then you by definition or by statistic will become the same as everyone else. So my plan was not to do the average or the traditional thing. So I think that the first thing was probably the decision that I'm not going to become a lawyer or an accountant. And, I completed 2 degrees in that. And from my friends to the bench in college, like from their perspective, I made crazy moves back then. Like, how can you give up on these things? These are the things that we train for and study for the last 3 to 4 years. So let's just, complete the bars or complete your internship in the law firm or accounting firm or whatever. But I wanted to do something different. So I think that was the first one. And in the VC career, it's exactly the thing that we spoke about before. You need to make decisions that at the time of the investment or making the decision, you don't have consensus. People will tell you and show you all the risks that you are taking. But in hindsight, if you look at the greatest outcomes, these were exactly the cases that 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, this looked like a crazy decision. But this is also the thing that lead to crazy outcomes. And we are in the game for big numbers, so.
What did your parents say when you decided not to pursue the career in accounting?
Oh, I think that I still need to explain what I do. I know that in investment banking, at least in Israel, I don't know how it's in the US, but in Israel, explaining to your parents or your family what an investment banker does for his life or what a VC investor does for his life, that's something you do every Shabbat dinner from scratch. So yeah, they didn't like it. But I think that they also knew that I am very independent and stubborn, and they haven't tried to change my mind. So they probably told me that this was a bad decision, but they trust me.
Right. What other skill sets or other things, I guess, even for yourself, do you think the non-relevant stuff that really make a great investor?
A trusted partner. If you want to build a sustainable career in venture capital, I think that you need to become a very trusted partner. So if you look at the ecosystem that we had in VC 25 years ago, so the supply and demand looked different, right? You usually had not a lot of supply, and you had a lot of people with ideas. So the demand was high. So venture capital firms could have been very selective. Now you see this, let's call it a lot of dry powder that sits on the fence, and many times, especially in the good companies and strong ones, you have more capital that wants to go inside a company than that the company should actually raise. So it's a very tricky game, and I think that the main thing that you need in order to build your own, reputation and record with founders, it should just be the really trusted partner over time, especially in hard times and in times when you need to make hard decisions. And yeah.
Do you have an example of you being that trusted partner?
I don't want to go to specific details, right. But once you invest, you have a lot of things to consider. And I think that you can take in general two different mindsets. One is, and that's the one that I believe in, you are a real partner to the founders and the rest of the investors, and we are all on the same team trying to increase the size of the cake.
Right.
If the size of the cake will increase, we will all benefit. Mm-hmm. The challenges can start when someone will try to maximize the slice of his personal cake. And I think that's the wrong mindset to have. I think that having, let's say 15% of 200 million is better than having 16% of 100 million. So when you work as a real partner and try to be a trusted partner to your founders, then I think that overall, you can call it karma, you can call it the right way to do business. Eventually the cake will be bigger. So right. I believe that that's the right way. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I totally agree with that. Is it anyone still that you're trying to prove something to?
Someone that?
Is there still someone that you're still trying to prove to? Do you have a chip on your shoulder?
That I need to prove someone? Just to myself. Yeah. I think that every time you break the ceiling of your own, let's say your own goals, mm-hmm. and then you want to go bigger. So for me, I work in a partnership with my other partners. We have full alignment of interest. I want everyone to succeed, and I want to succeed more than them. I want to be, to be the best out of my team. But I think that's in general the mentality of a sports team, right? You want everyone to outperform, but you want to be the outperformer. So that's the mindset that I think that I personally have, and a lot of people in VC career also share probably.
Right. What's your internal motivation?
Wow. VC is not project-based. So for me, just really doing my best and hope that the success will eventually cover every aspect of my life. So you want to work and have a successful investment if you look at a specific company, and you want to have a successful relationships with your partners and team, and then you want to have a success relationship with your wife and kids and family. So for me, I think it's about try to do the best in every possible court of the game that I have, and eventually just to be happy.
That's what it all boils down to.
Exactly.
How do you, is there a specific way how you evaluate yourself?
I think that I will judge myself a lot, both on the feedback that I will receive back home and professionally.
Right.
And I think that at the beginning of the career, it's really hard because, when you're a junior, it's hard because when you succeed, it takes time until you see the fruits out of that. So you always try to manage the balance between family and job. And the more you go up the ladder, I think that everyone sees the benefits, and then it becomes easier to have, the support of everyone around the table. And you also become, your role is different. It's more result driven than just being, available or creating presentation or models. So,
But I fully agree with you. But also, I know how hard it is what you're saying. It's very easy and simple to talk about it, but I know how much the work goes into it. So it's really incredible to see. Thank you. Your kids and your wife, I'm sure, are very proud.
I hope so.
You've become a thought leader. You write a lot of different articles on different publications in the tech ecosystem. You wrote multiple different types of things. I want you to give me some of your most recent thoughts you published on what you're bullish on, not bullish on. What do you think the state of the market is currently right now?
So I recently spoke with one of the newspapers, and it was a long discussion, but one line that came out of it was, let's say, somehow a bit controversial about, where SaaS is going and AI is taking over. So I think that, and as we speak, last night we saw most of the SaaS companies going down like anywhere between 5 to 10% on average. So it's a pretty crazy times in terms of investors and market expectation on how the work will look like 5 years from now. So I'm curious as well. I don't have a crystal ball, but if I try to zoom out and think about it, in the last 10 years, we saw companies building great offering and, reaching very high revenues and business scales just for providing what today seems like a very simple task, managing specific part of the CRM, connecting different workflows, automating certain areas of certain verticals. And today, you have Claude or OpenAI releasing one feature and shaking entire industries. So we now saw it with legal tech and other areas in the last week or so. So my predictions is that we will have two things. I think that from the SaaS and AI perspective, we will see a lot of solutions being rewritten in the way that they are being done today in terms of businesses. I think that we used to take a status quo, and incumbents that we used to take a status quo. I think that we will see some change in the leadership or the pyramid of how some markets will look like. But we will also see that AI cannot replace anything or everything. And there are things that will still continue to exist and continue to lead industries that we thought that will be, let's say, changed by now. I think that if I think about, I was 9 years old when the millennium came, and we thought that I remember that I had a task in school like paint something and write something about how you think the world will look like now in the year after 2000. And I had like flying cars. And you think about it, like we still have time. We don't have even autonomous cars in scale, at least not in Israel and many other areas. We have some in like Waymo and other areas in California, but it's still very far away of where people thought that it would be when they were asked 20 years ago.
Right.
So I think that the same thing will happen with AI as well. There are a lot of things that we still don't know that it will completely disrupt. But there are areas that maybe we judge too quickly to be disrupted and still have their skin in the game.
Interesting. So what was the controversial part and the pushback you received from people?
I think around SaaS.
Okay.
So the entire idea of what will happen, there is a lot of capital that was already deployed in a lot of large companies that serve a lot of large organizations. And I don't think that SaaS will die in a way that, it will cease to exist. But I think that we will see companies changing the same way that we saw companies that used to sell licensing, 10 years ago and move to the cloud. So we will see a lot of organizations adapting themselves in the coming years, but you will have to have your own AI offering, AI angle, AI story. And I'm not speaking about small features like the technology is changing, the infrastructure is changing, and the way that we consume and use it as business organization or even individuals and consumers is changing really fast. So we will have to adopt it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. What is the leadership principle that you find yourself going back to a lot?
The leadership principle?
Yeah.
Be true to your own thing. Say what you think. So always say what you think. Be bold, even if it's not popular, not internally or externally. Because that's like in relationship. You cannot, it's true for every relationship. Between friends, between, marriage or whatever. You have to say what you really think and to be able to discuss those things. So if you are waiting, and this is also something that we do at DTCP, we always let the most junior person speak first, because otherwise people will always follow what the most senior guy said. So I think it's important to have this.
How do you practice it? Like, I know it's 100% I agree with you, but a lot of times people are afraid to say the biggest and boldest thing because they're afraid of the feedback, the pushback, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, Israeli, it's an instinct. We always laugh at DTCP that, arguing in Israel is a national sport.
Yes.
And eventually, if you look at the Olympic sports, we're good at like fighting, surfing, things like that, navigating big waves. So I think it's an instinct for Israelis to say what they think.
Right. Is there anything you do outside of investing that you feel like makes you a better investor?
Building relationships. I think that's the number one focus that you should have as an investor, because it's not about identifying. Eventually, for most great companies, everyone knew who these companies were, but it's about the timing. When did you know? Because you need to know before other ones know about it. And the second part is about access. So you have to have the access. And access is personal. Access is not an intro email or, a meeting that you had with the founder. Access is emotional, psychological. It's about trust. It's about real relationship that you have. That someone that took so much risk in his life, left his job, recruited a lot of people and convinced them to leave their, safe jobs to join a tiny little startup in the middle of Tel Aviv or whatever. So there is a lot on the weights and on their shoulders, and letting other people or new joiners in, that's a very tough decision that they need to take very seriously, and they always take that very seriously. So you need to show them that you are worthwhile and you are the right partner for them.
How do you show them?
How do you show them? I think by actions.
Okay.
And also it's about the mindset that you say. I personally prefer to under-promise and over-deliver.
Right.
So I think that this is something that is important, and people can read through bullshit. So, when they have other people, promising the moon, and if you come and say exactly, this is what I can do, these are the references, speak with them, ask them about how I handle certain situations. So now it's easier for me because I already have my portfolio and references. But at the beginning, it's hard. At the beginning, you have to have someone else taking the leap of faith with you.
Who would you say is like one of the first people, like, that really believed in you, that gave you the opportunity and believed in you and said, hey, Dean, I believe in you. I know you're going to be able to do it. I know you're going to do something big.
So I will have two people. So I think that the first person to really believe in me was my wife. So, we have been together for many years. I know her since I was 20. So she saw a very young guy telling her about crazy things that he wants to achieve in life. And she was, okay, yeah, sure, you can do it. But she really believed in me. So my wife is definitely the number one person to believe in me. But from a professional perspective, the first defining moment or defining person that I had was in Poland, a guy named Talor, which is today a very close friend. He's leading the investment banking office of UBS today. And he recruited me as a very young analyst 10 years ago. And usually, we need to be an analyst for like 2, 3, 4 years before you're moving up the ladder. And after 6 months, he called me and told me that he's going to promote me. It was super early to an associate after 6 months. And he basically told me, and I remember the sentence, he told me, Dean, move fast, break things, and I will let you know if you need to have a course correction. And he was the first one who really gave me like the freedom to just do things. And I saw this opportunity, and I grew up a lot when I worked with him. So it shaped also my mind about how I work today with other team members. So from my own perspective, it's about always seizing opportunities and trying to find good opportunities, but also give other people the right opportunity. Right. So I don't believe in micromanagement. I think that you should hire the right people and give them the resources to do everything that they need to achieve.
Right. Your kid is 6 years old now. B'ezrat Hashem, he's going to grow older, and he's going to, as soon as he knows how to use Spotify, YouTube, he's going to come across this interview. What do you want him to see and hear about his father?
From a professional level, someone who is fulfilled and likes what he does, wakes up with a smile every morning, and believe that what he does is the right thing, and that he's considering the right consideration for him, for the companies. We have, people don't think about it, but we have like two duties. We have the duty to the founders and to the companies. We have the duty to our LPs and investors. Right. You have to balance those things. So I want to believe that I take all of these considerations very seriously and trying to do my best so everyone around the table will benefit and grow together.
And on a personal level?
On a personal level, every day on earth is a bless. So that I really enjoyed every moment. I'm trying to enjoy every day of my life. I don't believe in things like, okay, the next 6 months are going to be tough, but then I will be happy. I don't believe in like future happiness. Right. You need to be present today. You need to be able to enjoy today. And this is something that today I understand, but I didn't understand it as a young professional in the past, that you have to be proactive about it. You need to really think about that, to appreciate the things, to think about it, to acknowledge that you appreciate those things, to let people know that you appreciate it and love them. So this is something that you need to be proactive. I don't think you get to be happy by accident. You need to make sure that you have the time and you get to do all the things that you like.
Right. And this is something that you proactively do every single day.
Yes. Look, you have to have also boundaries.
Right.
We are like hunters, right? You hunt for deals, you hunt for meeting more people, expanding your network. So when you have this kind of a job, theoretically, there is no border.
Right.
When do you stop? You can take 5 meetings a day and you can take 25 meetings a day. And at some point, you need to be able to prioritize and to focus. So I think that focusing is one of the toughest things in the job, but also the most important one. And I am extremely transparent about that when I speak to founders. I have many times, I barely, usually when you invest, you already know the founder for several quarters, years. You build the relationship way before it's your time to invest. Right. In early growth, as a first check, it's harder, but in early growth and growth. So you get the time to show them that. And many times you have, let's say, 2 companies that you really, really like, or 3 companies that you really liked, suddenly fundraising at the same time. I personally was not blessed with the ability to pursue 5 deals at the same time. I can only focus on one because I think that you have to be the fastest, the deepest into the details. And for that, you have to prioritize. So the ability to prioritize, but also keep the other relationships real and be transparent that I'm already, deep into the process. I will be able to look deeper in 2 weeks from now or 10 days from now is important, and not just being in a situation where many times I hear complaints from founders about VCs in general that, yes, of course, show us the data and we were happy to have a look. I'm not here to kick the tires. I'm here to find the best partners that I can partner with and not to get just information.
Right. Wow. I love that, because that is something that I personally struggle with a lot. Focus. Because, for me, it's a bit different in the sense that, I'm more of a first check investor, and these deals are happening so quickly, and I could be doing at any period of time 5 deals at the same exact time. And then it's like, okay, where do you spend your time? Because then it comes a value add component, like where do you spend your time value add? And then you have everything else in the back office. So it's definitely something I could, definitely work on. And then if you add it above that, family life and personal obligations, it's like, oh my gosh. So it's something I could personally work on. And hearing you talking about it is actually really interesting.
For you, it's way harder. If you think about it, it's like a pyramid, the number of companies that you have in each stage, right? Yeah. So everyone starts from seed, but not everyone get to, C, D, or E round.
Right.
So the more you go up the pyramid and the later you go in terms of stages, you have less companies, and the focusing exercise becomes easier or less harder. But for you, it's good luck, my friend. I can only imagine how hard that may be.
I think it goes back to what you're saying in the beginning, that, from the outside, being an investor seems like the most glorious life possible. It's so amazing. You're playing with monopoly money. You're able to throw a check there. You're able to help the founders grow. You sort of run your own schedule to a certain degree, so you're able to have free time. Like, it seems very glorious. But if you look under the hood, it is super, super, super hard.
The perception couldn't be more different than the reality.
Right.
Really. I'm not sure founders understand how similar VCs and founders are. And I know they're different, but if you think about the similarities for a second. So startups and founders, they have runway. VCs have runway as well. So it's not like most VCs are some kind of an evergreen or, a pension fund that collect new funds every month. So every 2 to 4 years, founders need to fundraise. Yeah. Every 2 to 4 years, VCs need to fundraise. And then we both have the concept of runway. We both have the concept of our own investors. So even your board member has his own board member or LP commission or whatever you want to call it. So there are a lot of similarities actually. And it's not an easy game. People think that if you see someone in a, wine and dine or having coffees, that's an easy job. There are days that I really look at my times, as a more junior guy, having the luxury of spending 2 full days on Excel models, with your own music, your own zen and focus. And there are days that this is all I want, because you meet so many people and you have so many discussions that it can become overwhelming. Going to conferences, I always make this joke that I need a Vipassana after 1 week of conference. You're having probably 600 conversations in 6 days, then it can become exhausting. But that's the job. Otherwise, how can you find the traffic if you don't go and meet companies? So that's the best part of the job. But it's also challenging.
Right, I agree. What would be your message to the world? You have a microphone that can reach millions of people. What is something that you enjoy? Is your message?
Be true to yourself and make bold moves, and do good things. I think that if you do these 3 things, good things will come.
Okay.
And it's hard. You cannot think in a transactional way. It's not about get out of certain things for you. You just have to find the right people that you want to work with, to partner with. Do the best you can to succeed together as a team. And eventually, in hindsight, things will look obvious. Yes, we always knew. But just believe in yourself and work with the great people that you meet along your journey.
Wow. Dean, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
I thoroughly enjoyed this. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot about you, but also like the conversation in general. Thank you for being vulnerable and showing up as your true self.
Thank you so much. It has been a real pleasure being here, and great to be here.
You're welcome, my friend.